Hello, English 113 class. I hope your week is starting off well. We're getting close to the end of the quarter. We just have this week and then the Thanksgiving week and then the final week of classes. So I hope it's going well for you and wrapping up nicely. I want to send you this video today to talk about our last major project, which I've talked about in previous videos, but it's been a couple weeks since I've shared a video with you, so I just want to give you an update of where we're at. At this point, I've graded all the open letter analysis assignments and even given some people the option to revise one more time, and they've done that, and I think overall that went pretty well. I thought the class did a pretty good job on that assignment. I like to give you as many opportunities as possible to rewrite or revise an assignment if there's still room to improve. So if I gave you comments to that effect and you haven't taken that opportunity, you still can. And as always, just reach out to me with any questions. But for the most part, I feel like we're pretty much through that assignment and we just have a few weeks to go. So here we are. Here's the end of the quarter. I want to just go over one more time how to do this final major assignment, and then there's the little kind of discussion board type assignments between now and then, but this is mainly it for the rest of the quarter. So I want to make sure you're set up for success on that, and then you can primarily just focus on it for the rest of the quarter. And even the shorter discussion board type assignments you have due between now and then are all designed. I designed them all to scaffold up to writing that paper. Like, for instance, writing a thesis or an introduction paragraph or writing an outline, those kinds of things. So what I'm going to do now is just briefly go over one more time what you're supposed to do in this final paper, and then also how the little assignments that I've already mentioned lead up to that. Okay, so here we are. For the last few weeks, since you completed the open letter analysis assignment, we've been working on what's called a researched argument paper. This paper is your final culminating project. Like I've said early in the quarter, the class is primarily divided up by these two major papers, with the open letter analysis being due at midterm, this one being due at the end of the quarter. So the instructions for it should be in every module from module 7 on forward, and the instructions are under both the rough draft and the final draft versions of the assignment. So if you want to open those instructions now and look at them while I go over them in this video, you can and you should. If you're looking at the rough draft rather than final draft page, it has instructions on how to submit the rough draft and do the peer review, which I'll post a video on that, my final video for the quarter, in 2 weeks. But that process is almost identical, or it is identical to the peer review drafting process you did for the open letter analysis. So if you're on the rough draft page, which comes up more frequently than the final draft 1 modules, scroll down to section 2, because that explains what to do in the actual paper. So I just simply say, for this essay, you will build upon the research and analysis you have previously completed, creating an argument that focuses on a central claim that is supported by reasons and evidence. So it's very straightforward. If you've written research-based argumentative papers before in high school or in other classes you've taken in college, it's very similar to those. When it says you will build upon the research and analysis you have previously completed, that means the research you've been doing for the short assignments and the modules. So I think the first module on this project was module 7, and that had some things on research and the why method and finding sources. And then since then, you've been working on writing an intro, turning a research question into a thesis, and then I believe this week's assignment is writing an outline. So all that first half of the sentence means is, using the research and work you've already done. Now, as you get closer to turning in the rough draft of this, if you need to change topics, that's fine. You can change topics at any point. The longer you stick with one topic, the easier it'll be. But having a good topic is more important. If you have any questions or concerns about your topic, please email or Canvas message me. I'd really be very happy to talk with you about that and help you figure out a good topic. I do that all the time with the students in my in-person classes. We leave a little bit of time at the end of the class to talk, or students stay after class or come to my office hours. If you're ever on campus, you can always come to my office, but I'd be happy to talk with you and help you figure that out. So that's all the first half of the sentence mean. The second half is more important. Create an argument that focuses on a central claim that is supported by reasons and evidence. So what this means is in a couple weeks, or whenever you get to the point of writing the full paper for the rough draft, you need to have one central idea, and that needs to be an argument. It needs to be a clear stance. And then the rest of these instructions go into the reasons why you're doing the paper. There's some bullet points on that. And then some things you need to have, like 4 sources. You need to analyze and synthesize those sources. So I'm not going to go through the rest of the prompt sentence by sentence. The main idea is you have an argument, a central claim, a stance on a topic, and reasons and evidence to back that up. And those reasons and evidence should be supported by the research you've done. And that's it. Obviously we have to write the paper, but that's, in terms of summing it up, that's all you really need to know. It's a very straightforward assignment. You've been learning about ethos, logos, and pathos. And in the open letter analysis, you analyze someone else's use of ethos, logos, and pathos. This is your opportunity to pick an idea you're a fan of, like a topic you're interested in, something that's really important to you, and take your stance on it. And then rather than explaining how someone else uses ethos, logos, and pathos, you will make your claims. You'll use your reasons and evidence and research to back them up. And in doing so, you will use ethos, logos, and pathos to prove your argument to your audience. So that's the purpose and focus of this paper. What's really important is to make sure you have that central claim. So if you've been doing the assignments in Canvas, you will have come up with a research question, actually several of them. And then what you want to do after that is pick a question, research it, study it, learn about it, treat it almost like the Infosphere assignment we've done, where you really read some research. And then once you've read the research and you know what other people have said, come up with your stance. You don't want to just reiterate what other people have said. You want to have your own unique argument. So as you read the research on your topic, think about, what have people not said about this yet? And maybe there you can find your thesis. And then when you have your thesis, you want it to clearly be an argument. I'll give you an example of what's not an argument. So a really popular topic that I like to pick on, it's a decent topic, but it's very popular right now, is climate change. I think it's popular because it's important, but it's not as polarizing as other topics like, for example, abortion or the death penalty or legalizing drugs. Those are very important topics, but they're really hard to write on in a paper of this length. Whereas climate change has, to some degree, the significance of those topics, though not to the same degree. But there's still different sides to take. It's still debatable, but it's not quite as hot button as those still pretty hot buttons. So lots of students like to write on climate change. The problem with climate change is it's a very broad, general topic. There's so many issues within climate change. So if you were to write on that, for example, you'd want to pick one of those specific issues like deforestation or something like that, not just climate change. And whatever you're writing on, if it is very general like that, you want to narrow your focus. The more narrow and specific your focus can be, the better. And then once you know your focus, once you have a research question once you've read some of the research, learned more about it, identified the new thing you can say you want your thesis in the paper to be a stance. So it needs to be an argument. Now, like, to use the climate change example again, what I've seen a lot is a paper that will say these 3 or 4 things are the causes of climate change. And then there'll be a paragraph on each of those things. And it'll be very well written, and it'll say have 4 sources, 1 for each cause, and it'll be this very kind of just well written, but just kind of summary or narration of deforestation is one of the results of climate change, or plastic in the ocean is one of the causes of climate change. Here's a paragraph summarizing what someone else said about that. That's not an argument. That's a summary. You need a stance. Maybe it's more debatable what one of the most prominent causes of climate change is. And you could argue, for example, that focusing on that specific cause would help us make progress. Things like that. So you need to do your research if you haven't already. Figure out the answer to your research question by figuring out what other people haven't quite said yet. What's the new niche you can fill, and then turn that into a thesis. By basically, it's as simple as just you can kind of answer your research question, write that out in a sentence. And then for the rest of the paper, you come up with some reasons why, and you spend a paragraph on each of those reasons why. The key thing, though, is, and I talked about this a lot in my feedback in the open letter analysis, is to be doing argument and analysis, not summary. So you might have to summarize some information. If there's a few scientific facts someone needs to know, that's fine. But you want the majority of it to be argument and analysis. So if you have a thesis, for example, one of the most overlooked issues with climate change is fill in the blank. And if we focus on working on this problem more, then we can make a difference with climate change. That's an argument. So you'd have some reasons for it, and each of those reasons would have its own paragraph. And in that paragraph, you would say, you would connect that reason to your thesis so that the start of the paragraph sounds like an argument. Like, reason 1 shows us why focusing on this issue can help with climate change. That's a mini argument that supports your big argument. You do that in each paragraph, or most of them. And then in the paragraph, you'd go in and you'd cite something from your research, a quote, or paraphrase something, or maybe there's an image you would use, a chart, I don't know. So, you have some piece of evidence, a story, a narrative, something, some piece of evidence, and then you'd explain how that evidence supports your mini argument. And that's the analysis, when you explain how it supports your mini argument. And then by doing that in each paragraph, you prove your thesis. So when I say on the assignment instructions, create an argument that focuses on a central claim that is supported by reasons and evidence, that's what I mean. That's what it looks like fleshed out in the paper. So that's really all I have. Hopefully that's enough to go on. There's just 2 last things I want to mention, and then I'll finish up this video. One is I've posted 3 sample papers from previous classes of mine. They're in modules 9, 10, and 11. I've put them in each module so you'll find them. So if you have any confusion about how to write the paper, even after watching this video, look at those sample papers. The next thing is, the rough draft is due at the end of the Thanksgiving week. After you do the discussion board this week on creating an outline, you don't have any other assignments other than the rough draft and the final draft. So you can do that at any point, the rough draft. The reason why I say that is if you don't want to turn it in at the end of Thanksgiving week, but you're going to be out of town, or you just don't want the distraction of writing a paper while you're celebrating the holiday with your family, you can turn it in at the start of the week, this weekend, whenever you want. So I want to make that really clear. Finally, the last thing I'll say, and I'll say this again in the final video I post in a couple weeks, is we'll do rough draft December 1st, peer review process, same as last time, then final draft December 8th. December 8th is about a week. It's the start of finals week, but it's about a week before I'm required to submit final grades to EagleNet. So I'll grade your final drafts hopefully, ideally, that first day, the first or second day, like Monday or Tuesday after it's due on Sunday night, and give you feedback. And if there are any issues, if you want to revise it for a higher score, I would need it turned back within 3 or 4 days by Thursday so that I could grade it on Friday and get final grades submitted to EagleNet before that week is up. Now, in the previous week, I'll grade your rough drafts and give you feedback. Same process as last time. It's just sometimes it takes more than one set of feedback. Sometimes after my second set of feedback, you still have to do more. So just remember that. Let that be a motivator to get it in on time, and always be on the lookout for my comments. So that's what I have. I think if you follow the things I've said in this video, you can really, end the class strongly. But please let me know if you have questions about anything, your paper topic, anything. I'd be happy to talk to you more. Like I said, I'll give you feedback on the rough draft, but if you want to talk about your topic or you want me to give you feedback on your thesis statement or something, happy to do that. So please reach out with any questions, but I hope you have a great week. And if I don't hear from you, if you don't have any questions, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Take good care. Be safe.